Hi, and welcome to Supply Chain Academy's video interview with our good friend Tom Noble. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to ask you a set of questions about your recent projects, your current work, your background, and understanding where you're kind of growing into in your new sector and field. So, do you want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to sharing what we're doing here. I'm Tom Noble. I've worked for multiple different logistics businesses, over a decade of experience in this field, and coming from a kind of working class background with not an opportunity to go to university, left school, got a job, ended up in logistics like most people do, where we don't really know what we do in logistics. We just walk in and never leave. That tends to be the way it works. I was able to find this opportunity to kind of move forward in this field and put some science behind the stuff I was doing every day, which is what led me here. So we sat with you.
It's great. It's great to have you. I mean, we've seen you kind of develop over a period of time on our supply chain degree. It was great to have you as a character in the sessions and making people learn from yourself as well as our tutors. Tell us a little bit about that experience, and then we'll talk about your project that you've done as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few different things that are really good about this. You said around characters and people, and I've met people from all different areas of the industry, different places in the country, different ages, different backgrounds, and we're all able to come together and learn the same thing. So I've been to warehouses where I have no idea what they're doing, because we extend the learning beyond just sitting in the classroom and understanding. We're able to go, how do you do what you do, and how can that impact what I'm doing? And I'm a leader in this industry, and I like to think you have a positive impact on other people. When I'm able to share what I'm doing with someone, it creates a little bit of a bond between you. You're together for 4 years doing a degree. It's a long, arduous task. For you to have those sort of friendships, and we've got people on this course that are 18, we've got people that are in the 60s. That vast experience we're able to share is really, really good. And that was probably one of the best things for me about this course, was being able to share it with other people. I think from a course perspective, being able to learn something that I can put into practice in my job has been no end of improvement. So my job is to make operations better. That's been my job for about 6 years now. So for me to learn how they would do that in a scientific context and put that into my work every day is amazing. And it has had tenfold improvements.
Yeah, we've certainly seen grow and develop over the last 4 years, and the degree covers lots of different modules. It covers the end-to-end supply chain, literally every activity within the supply chain. Would you say that you learned, a particular area or activity more than others? And then we'll talk about your continuous improvement role now, and that's kind of led to the project that you've undertaken.
Yeah, so there's multiple modules, as you know. You can go from capacity planning and forecasting through strategic leadership into finance. You cover everything that you'll need to know as a leader in the industry. What's really important is at the beginning we do a bit of a skill scan, so we understand what we're good at, what we're bad at. I realised that I wasn't bad at it, but there was areas for improvement in strategic leadership. I wanted to be able to put things where I needed them down the line, not just instantly fix them. And there's a module on that, and it was my best module from a grade perspective. I think it was the one I enjoyed most. That's what's grown me into a more rounded leader, is picking on something that was a bit of a weakness that needed improving and tailoring it to my work. So I'm not just learning it generally, I'm learning it in what I'm doing every day.
No. And university learning is not easy. I mean, and you're a professional, you've got a home life, you've got a family, you're working hard, and then on top of that, you've got an assignment to write. How did you find that?
It's really tough. It is tough, and we get supported by our employers to do this. So 20% of our working week is dedicated to learning, not just writing, but going and seeing other areas of the business and learning about how you can improve that. When you're writing an assignment, you're given all the tools you need to do it. There's people that haven't been to university before. There's people that have just come out of university. There's a lot of different skill sets. We're all able to kind of understand where we're at and then write it. So there's a lot of support to write it. But there are nights where it's 3 o'clock in the morning and it's a deadline in 2 days and you waited too long, because that's what we do. But you get through it. And as a collective, you do find friends that you can lean on and say, where are you up to with this? And there's the odd person who says, I did it weeks ago. We all hate them.
They're all important, aren't they? I mean, the degree is designed to help you think, reflect, and actually apply them to your job. And that's how you're assessed, right? Because at the end of the day, we want you to apply that learning and think for yourself and be that creative thinker, problem solver, which is all the attributes that you need to be a well-rounded end-to-end supply chain professional, right? What you're doing your day-to-day, adapting to a disruption, etc., etc.
Well, this is really important for leaders to understand, is that when you were able to, you're not just writing an assignment on how to run a capacity planning forecasting team. You're writing an assignment on how you've improved your business through the learning that you've had. And that is, you're able to demonstrate to your employer, I'm ready for the next step. They're hopefully and potentially benefiting from that financially, or whether it be through a better culture. And maybe there's a point in which you decide to say, because all these modules, there's I think 8 modules, maybe 9 or 10 modules, you go for a different thing every time. So you're covering all these different elements of the business that your leaders are seeing grow and develop as well as you.
The modules are actually around operations management, how you generally run a business, right? And it covers all of the actual supply chain activities, right? But what we actually have seen is a 10 to 25% increase in productivity in individuals and back at work as a result of going through our program generally, not just the degree, but some of our other programs as well. Would you say that you've seen that in your own role? And then talk a little bit about your project as well.
Yeah, I think personally, I've seen myself grow massively. And I only said yesterday, because now I'm doing a master's degree, I was speaking to somebody about when I joined this course, my eyes were open. I was thinking, I'm here to learn and I'll take everything in and I'll take on everything that I can do to move forward. But then when I got onto this one, I was a little bit more closed off. I was a little bit, I just want to go and do all of that now. And as I've moved forward to it, I can see that there is massive benefit in doing that. I was speaking to a couple of people who was in my cohort, a couple of fellow students, around this exact point, around how we can kind of grow as people and how tough it is. Being able to see somebody who comes in and doesn't have maths and English, doesn't have the confidence that they can do it, but is able to get through that, go through all the modules and graduate, it's remarkable. I'm not sure that answered your question.
It does. It kind of helps us realize why we do what we do. Giving the opportunity to people who never had an opportunity before, to give them an opportunity to succeed, to achieve that bit of paper they might not have thought they might have had before, had that opportunity before.
Yeah. Just on that then, so that one of the guys I was in a co-op with, 18 years old, jumped into the degree with us, got a job. So he was working, he's doing his degree, he's a young man. He's just left with his degree, got a graduate program job. So he's working for a very big corporation as a graduate. But he's not just a graduate. He's got 4 years of relevant experience. He's got no university debt to handle. And he's in a position of being an experienced professional.
To spot track his career.
He'll be running the place in no time.
I'll interview him next time. But through this degree, through the project, you've enabled you to research something that's very close to your heart: sustainability, continuous improvement. Tell the audience a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the research was my final project. So as part of the degree, your final project is something that you want to do that has an impact on your business. And that was sat in my current strategy. So I developed, with a good friend and mentor of mine, a fuel strategy for the business I was working for at the time. And that essentially meant the top costs in any logistics business are people and diesel. Whichever fuel you tend to use, it tends to be diesel. We built that 6-pillar strategy, which was designed to kind of reduce usage and save the planet. Cost, planet. I noticed that a lot of the diesel usage in the business, in all businesses in logistics, certainly frozen ones. If we look at frozen temperature set points in trailers, that's the temperature at which the trawler is. It should be minus 18, minus 20, minus 22. What we noticed across the industry was there was an element of overcooling. So the products that are in the back of the vehicle have come out of a warehouse that has been at a temperature, let's say -20. They go into a vehicle which is at -20, and they're delivered to a site which goes into a freezer which is -18. So all the way back through the supply chain, we've potentially, and this is why we're developing methodology, we've potentially been overcooling that product by 2 degrees for, it may well be months, all of that travel. And at some point that cost sits within your supply chain, and that's what you can control. We develop a methodology to say, if it's in my supply chain, how can I reduce that? How do I close that gap so that everything matches safely without affecting product quality?
It sounds a little bit like common sense to me, but I mean, just talk about some of the challenges that you've had as of going through this project with people that you talk to.
Yeah, as with all improvement initiatives, is usually we've always done it this way. That tends to be why we do things. And I've seen operations that would run temperatures that were far in excess of where they needed to be. And often it's because of a misconception around how a trailer works. If I want the product to be -20 and I put it at -27, I know that that product is going to remain cold and my customer's going to accept it. But actually what you're doing is you're just burning fuel you don't need to burn, because most of them run on diesel. Some of them now run on electricity. We've got some swap in Sierra that are moving forward with electric trailers. But what we needed to do was kind of understand how we close that gap. And that's what this research has done. Operational practice, people are scared. If you have to load these vehicles, which means you have to open the door, how much air comes out there? What does the temperature ingress look like? All of that kind of science needs to be verified before you can change the temperature. You can't just turn it, because you will arrive at the store or wherever you're delivering to, and they say, I'm not having that, send it back. It's costly.
So by doing the project that you did, there was no effect on the product itself by increasing the temperature?
None, and it was important to get the data. So we developed a methodology so that we could trial this. And this is what, so we wrote the report, great, but it wasn't enough. So we wrote an article in partnership with UNICEF and the Cold Chain Federation, which says to operators, this is how you do it. And ultimately, it's a 4-step program. Find out what the temperatures are, can you change them, test if it's going to work, and then roll it out. It's very simple, very straightforward. If you follow it, you can't bugger it out. What we found was, in the trailers, we just put 2 trailers side by side. We did it again with 3, but we'll talk about we did it with 2. One was at minus, let's say, 15. One was at, let's say one was at minus 18 and one was at minus 22. There's a 4-degree difference there. We loaded them with the same product in the same place at the same time and put them in the same center of the sun so that they weren't it wasn't unfair. And we simulated journeys. So we had drivers opening the doors, pulling the cages out, putting them back in, closing the doors. It was almost like a normal day. But we were able to get our partners at Carrier involved, who would come alongside and have a look and say, well, we've weighed the fuel on the way in to both of those vehicles, so we know exactly what it's used. And the results were astounding. There's like 4% over usage of fuel for every degree. So the trailer running at minus 22 is using so much more fuel than a trailer that would be at minus 20. Now this differs depending on the operation. Everyone's operation is different, everyone's practices are different, the trailers are all whatever. That's why you have to test that, because then you know how much money you're saving when you change it. And then if you want to ask your customer for a little bit of gain share on it, you can give the right number and not just a guess. It was mega.
So how much do you think you saved the business?
I had it tallied, hundreds of thousands.
So your project on your degree that the levy paid for, you did a project that saved them
hundreds of thousands of pounds. And it doesn't stop there, because we're able to share this research with the industry in the hope that we are able to push them on as well, and they can begin saving. There's operators out there that don't have the mic corporate behind them, pushing them, funding them. Because some of them are a few guys and a few wagons.
It's amazing. It's an amazing story. Thanks so much for being part of the team and here supporting us and being such an advocate for Supply Chain Academy in the work that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about how you've kind of talked to government, talked to the cold chain, talked to your peers about moving this project on.
Yeah, it took off. It really took off. We were able to work in pretty good partnership with some top guys that are able to, with some top leaders that were able to push us forward and put us in the centre stage. So we've been able to talk about this at events. We've been to parliamentary receptions and spoke to MPs about what this change could potentially mean for the planet. If you look at a litre of diesel burning, depending on the conversion factor that you use or the country that runs your business, you might be getting per litre, the figure changes, usually around 2.5 kilos of CO2 equivalent per litre. So if I save 100,000 litres, well, I've reduced my carbon footprint beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And I'm thankful for being able to do that, because not many people get the opportunity to take 500,000 kilos of CO2 out of the atmosphere.
So you've already had impact.
And the government perhaps would like to run with this and change the way we run the industry. I don't know what that looks like. There are other initiatives out there. There's a move to -15 initiative, which is all about, do we need to be at -18 as a minimum, or can it be -15? That's a very strong and outlandish thing that we're looking at doing. We need people like that to do that.
What do you need from a supporting point of view to help you push that forward?
I need people to read the research, and I need people to do it and then tell me if it worked, and when it didn't work, why not? At the minute, it's me and probably 5 businesses that are taking around with it. If I can get the information back, I can develop bigger cases and I can develop bigger research pieces, and then we can understand at what point do we need to stop.
And your research is out where?
The research can be found either by this one here. The research can be found on the Cold Chain Federation's website. It'll be published with me. You can find it on GB Global's website, I think. We can find it on GB Global's website,
The Supply Chain Academy's website.
We can find it on the Supply Chain Academy's website.
But we can promote it and talk to government about it as well from our side.
I think this is one research proposal of hundreds of people that go through this degree every year. I cannot advocate it enough. And it's a degree for me that I never had an opportunity to get before. It didn't cost me a penny. Didn't cost my employer a penny. I've learned so much, and now I'm on to the bigger, better things. And also, you kind of learn a little bit more about you and what you are capable of, and it instills that confidence. When you sat in a meeting sometimes, you think, I don't know if I can answer you what you've just told me because I don't get it. I can be the one that says, what do you mean by that? And say the stupid question because I'm confident in my ability.
No questions stupid. It's always good to ask questions, to be confident to ask those questions. And I'm really proud that you've done a qualification with us where it's helped make a difference in your life. With your project, though, we'd like to support you further and look at how we can kind of grow the next volume of research and see what we can do to support you from that.
Yeah.
But I'd like to say a massive thank you for being part of this interview today. It's been a pleasure having you here in our midst at our Supply Chain Academy HQ. You're always welcome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.